You would think that golf's a pretty harmless sport, seeing how all they do is stand and try to get that perfect hole-in-one. We've seen plenty of accidents in other games like cricket and football, but looks like golf has a fair share of these horrible incidents too. In today's video, we'll go through 6 of the worst incidents that happened on golf tours. Buckle up, people, because it's about to get really gruesome in here. First up, we've got Keegan Bradley at number 6. Okay, right off the bat, we're going to start with the scary thing all of us witnessed back in 2013. To put it simply, Keegan Bradley hit a fan in the head. Yeah, that was one pretty ouch moment, and it had everyone in the crowd gasping. It began with Bradley playing a drive on his 14th hole at Muirfield Village for the President's Cup, and we saw what a huge shot he made. It went so high, and unfortunately, mere moments later, it went right up the left rope line before it came down and hit a spectator in the crowd. Cameras panned on the man who was hit and saw how he fell to the ground instantly. It looks like he got hit in the head, and it wasn't a light shot either. Bradley had put all his strength into it, because even the microphones on the field picked up the sound of the ball hitting the poor guy in the head. Safe to say, a lot of us were glad we weren't in that man's shoes that day. Fortunately, the guy didn't suffer any serious injuries due to the shot. The crowd gathered around him when he was hit, and everyone helped him up. Here's the thing though, it's a rule in golf to shout 4 when you know you've hit a shot that might put anyone else on the ground in danger. From what we know, Bradley didn't shout 4 at all when this scary incident took place. Maybe the golfer himself didn't think the ball would end up hitting someone in the head. Up next, in 5th place, we have Tiger Woods at the 2010 Memorial Tournament. Now this one's pretty controversial, and it stirred up a lot of debate in the golfing community. People were pretty divided about what to make of this incident, and we are going to tell you all about it here. The thing that makes this incident so shocking is how the injury occurred right at the very beginning of the tournament. Instead of having his opening tee shot land somewhere along the course, Tiger Woods ended up hitting a spectator in the neck from the get-go. You can imagine for yourself what it would be like getting hit in the neck with a small golf ball coming at you with such speed. Once again, just like Bradley, Woods didn't shout 4 either. We're beginning to think that maybe there's a reason golfers end up not sticking to this one rule. Some critics believe that in certain cases, golfers purposely hit dangerous shots because it helps them with their strategies. For example, in this case, if Woods had not made this shot and hit the spectator in the neck, he would have had to play near the creek, and we're guessing that's something he very much wanted to avoid that day. Whenever people debate the pros and cons of shouting 4, this is something a lot say. Sometimes you don't shout 4 to avoid something even more dangerous on the ground. Well, the ethics don't sound right. Coming up for number 4, when Phil Mickelson hit a course marshal in the head. Anyway, let's move on to the 4th incident on today's list. Before we start with this one, we've got to say, it's one thing to hit a spectator, but it's just an entirely different thing to hit a golf course marshal, that too in the head. And that's exactly what happened at the Memorial Tournament in 2016. Here, we've got Phil Mickelson hitting course marshal Joshua Stanfield, and goodness, you had to be there to see it. According to Stanfield, he knew he was going to get hit, but somehow his reflexes weren't working that day. Even though he knew the ball was coming his way and he should move to avoid a serious injury, he stayed put. Usually, course marshals are better with this stuff because they've seen it happen before. As such, they've got an idea of when and how to dodge a shot coming their way. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for Stanfield, but it was a good thing he was wearing a cap, and that helped reduce the impact of the ball on his head. Thanks to the cap, the ball bounced off to the other side of the fairway. Right after, we saw Mickelson approach the course marshal to apologize. Stanfield talked about how the shot had hurt, but in the end, he mentioned how it was still worth it, because hey, he got to shake hands with Phil Mickelson. At number 3, it's Ernie Els hitting a spectator in the face in 2014. As you'll see, Tiger Woods wasn't the only one who hit someone with his opening tee shot. We've got another contender on our list, and it's none other than Ernie Els. While some golfers are able to handle such incidents during tournaments, looks like Els really didn't take it too well. We'll stop stalling and get right into what went down. The whole thing happened at the 2014 Open Championship in Royal Liverpool. Els had hit a spectator smack dab in the face, and looks like it was a pretty serious injury. The spectator started bleeding, and well, we get how it must have affected Els. It's one thing to hit someone and see that they're okay, but to hit someone and see them bleed? Yeah, pretty difficult to stomach. You could see how greatly it disturbed the golfer, because he wasn't able to pay proper attention to his game right after the hit. For the rest of the tournament, everyone saw Ernie struggling. He missed plenty of short putts, and what's worse, he kept playing the front nine in 7 over par. Yeah, that's not a good look for a professional golfer. Later on, during interviews, Els opened up about how shaken up he was when he realized his shot had caused the spectator such a serious injury. The guy had to be taken to the hospital because of all the immense bleeding, and he had to get stitches on his face. Not to mention, at number 2, we've got Ernie again 2 years later. As luck would have it, Ernie Els would go through something similar once more. Fortunately, this one wasn't as serious as the last one, but still, a hit is a hit at the end of the day. This second one happened on the second day of the Masters tournament back in 2016. Els really hadn't been performing too well, considering the really disappointing 9 he scored on his first hole the day before. The golfer was playing the same hole the second day as well, and because of all the stress of his performance, he pulled a big shot, which eventually made its way to the crowd. The ball ended up hitting a pretty enthusiastic golf fan who went by the name Luke Fowle. Both Fowle and Els were in luck that day, because the good thing was that Fowles only got hit by the ball in the temple, and while it was a pretty ouch moment, the guy wasn't seriously hurt. Thank goodness there was no blood on the scene this time around. Els ended up scoring a double bogey right after that, so you could say something good came out of this disaster for the golfer. He even played 3 shots better than the day before, so his performance came up too. Glad this wasn't a bloody mess like last time. Finally, in first place, Dustin Johnson hits a journalist. And the final incident on our list is something that's the most terrifying of them all. It's when Dustin Johnson hit journalist Philip Reed, a guy from the Irish Times, during the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale. Johnson was making his second shot at the 9th when clearly his hit went completely off course and hit poor Reed on his cheekbone. Once again, this brings to light the big old shouting for debate, because Reed was standing right in front of the gorse bushes, and if it wasn't for him, Johnson's shot would have ended up in those bushes. We can't help but wonder if this was a deliberate strategy. In the end, we can't ever be sure. What's more, Johnson didn't shout for either, but Reed was pretty polite about it. The journalist excused Johnson's behavior by saying no one might have heard his warning, seeing how windy and loud it was that day. Reed would go on to tweet a picture of his injury, but at the same time, he was pretty happy that even though he got hit, he ended up having Johnson's signature on the same ball that hit him in the face. Well, that's surely one way of getting an autograph out of a favorite golfer. At least Reed got his hands on a pretty memorable souvenir. That's a wrap for this video. What do you make of these accidents during golf tours? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.